So let's look now with SARS having said that they're going to make it more hard, more difficult and costly for taxpayers who fail to meet their obligations. And that's the threat warning by SARS, and they're increasing the enforcement strategies using penalties as well as other legal enforcement. And of course it comes as SARS, the revenue collected by SARS came in at 20 billion rand above projections in the medium-term budget. In November, SARS is also under pressure to try and increase revenue and offset any kinds of tax increases. So to speak to us a little bit more about SARS strategy is Rehnu, who is the Senior Tax Consultant for Tax Consulting South Africa. Rehnu, good to have you with us so early in the new year talking about SARS and tax, which is exactly what many people would have been hoping to avoid or at least forget about over the December period.
Hi, Tahila. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, let's talk about SARS warning. Who is SARS targeting here with the latest warning?
Oh, I think that basically pertains to everybody and anybody who earns an income in South Africa and who is required to submit a tax return to the receiver of revenue. Yeah.
So they've specifically focused on people who are either not compliant, whether that means that they haven't submitted their tax returns, or whether they have gotten amounts owing to SARS and have not paid them over or made a payment arrangement.
I think it goes much deeper than that. Basically, as a taxpayer or as a tax resident in South Africa, you are required to submit an income tax return in South Africa if you earn any sort of income, whether it's income from your employer, whether it's investment income from any investments that you have inside or outside of South Africa, whether you receive rental income. So you would be required to submit a tax return declaring all relevant income that you currently earn.
Now, if people are not doing that, previously SARS has said that they've sent reminders, but they're increasingly upping the ante.
Correct. We've seen this by means of taxpayers not submitting their tax returns, especially on time or within the specified deadline. And we've seen SARS levying administrative penalties. And these penalties are not just a once-off penalty that SARS levies. It's a recurring penalty on a monthly basis. Until you submit the actual tax return to SARS, you could find yourself in a tax liability or an admin penalty liability of more than 10,000, 20,000. I've seen taxpayers have administrative penalties in the amount of over 100,000 sometimes.
Wow. And is that just from failing? That's not actually the amount owing to SARS. That's just from failing to post their returns?
Correct, yeah. It's basically it's an admin penalty which SARS uses based on, estimation of your potential income earnings. Yeah.
And just then in terms of the discrepancy between what people are declaring and what they've earned, what are the ways that SARS is using to enforce that?
So ultimately what happens, Tahila, is when you submit your tax return to SARS, declaring all your relevant income, there would be supporting documentation that you would have at your disposal. So, for example, if you are earning salary income, you would have an IRP5 certificate that you would have received from your employer. If you're earning rental income and an agent is managing the rentals on your behalf, you would have the relevant statement that reflects your income that you receive for the 12-month period, as well as any commission that you have paid, your expenses that you are claiming, for example, your municipal, your levies. Those are all the kind of invoices that you would have to submit should SARS do a verification. If you have extensive interest income from your banking institutions, your banking institution would provide you with a IT3B certificate reflecting the amount of interest earned. And irrespective of whether your income earned is below the threshold, that amount is still required to be declared to SARS.
And so then what can people expect to see if they're not compliant? You mentioned the administrative penalties. SARS is also the only entity that is able to actually access someone's bank account and take what's owed to them from that bank account. They're also now employing debt collectors. That was something that the SARS Commissioner referenced at the medium-term budget speech.
Yes, correct. I've seen some examples whereby SARS has, if you do have a liability owing to SARS, you basically put your head in the sand and kind of ignored the actual liability paid. I mean, there are options that you have at your disposal. Ignoring them is not an option. Obviously, just try and take the bull by the horns and address the concern head on. Rather just, if you are overwhelmed, I would say rather approach a tax practitioner whereby we can, ascertain and determine whether the amount owing by you is correct. And there are payment arrangement options that you can make with SARS as well. So it's not that the taxpayer is in a detrimental situation. There definitely are options that the taxpayer can utilize per se.
And looking ahead to this year, 2026, what are the kind of expectations? So there's also the policy environment where in February, the finance minister will announce whether there's the possibility of a VAT increase that's now that's been delayed. There's also tax brackets, many people hoping that tax brackets will be adjusted for inflation. What are the kinds of things you're expecting this year?
So I think besides the above that you've mentioned, we've seen a high scrutiny on expatriate taxpayers, especially those who have ceased non-residency. For the 2025 tax year, we've seen how SARS has changed the tax return from resident and non-resident, specifically specifying, whether you are a resident taxpayer or whether you're a non-resident taxpayer. Definitely, I think the focus is also on AI. And I think for us, personal experience with our client base, we've seen an increase in the verification process as well. SARS is getting relentless in terms of the actual documentation that you are required to provide to prove any deductions in terms of, for example, home office. I think they're becoming more and more stricter and more detailed. So, I think it's important in terms of exactly knowing what you're declaring on your tax return and being able to verify it by relevant supporting documentation.
Thanks so much, Senior Tax Consultant for Tax Consulting South Africa, putting us in the picture about the tax year ahead and SARS' determination to enforce all of its policies. And anyone who is not tax compliant can expect a much stronger approach from SARS.